Well, a lot of intriguing matchups coming into this next NFL season. But which ones are some of the ones to watch? Let's rock. All right, what's going on, guys? My name is Antonio, and welcome back to the All Around Sports Podcast. Today, we are going over my top 10 matchups going into the 2024 NFL season. Now, there's a lot of games that we are probably looking in as key matchups. I'm looking at some in particular, but I'm going to be going over my top 10. But before we get started, I am trying to aim for 400 subscribers before the beginning of the next NFL season. So if we can hit that margin by September 5th, that would mean a lot to me. So if you guys do enjoy this video, please be sure to hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. But for now, let's get this discussion underway. But before we enter into the top 10, I wanted to throw out a few honorable mentions that I left just outside of this list. So, starting us off, you got the battle of the two top picks. You got the Commanders and the Bears. Now, I left this outside because pretty much both these sides are not going to be in the playoff picture. Commanders highly likely not going to be in the picture. Bears, we don't know. But this matchup is going to be good because it has the two top quarterbacks going at it head to head. And the next honorable mention is the Cowboys versus the Niners because pretty much we know that the Niners always put a spanking on the Dallas Cowboys every time they go against them. But anyways, the next game I have on the honorable mentions is the Chiefs versus the 49ers. And as we all know, the 49ers have not recorded a win against the Kansas City Chiefs. So because of that reason, I left them just outside that one just outside the top 10 because pretty much we know that Kansas City is more dominant over the 49ers. But the next honorable mention is the Battle of Texas itself. The Texans going on the road to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. This one I do see being a really good game, but pretty much the Cowboys, nobody wants to see them on the TV. Pretty much. But, anyways, the last honorable mention I have on this list is the Packers versus the Texans. Now, I do not know why this was not a primetime game. But who knows? It's probably just for ratings. I don't know. Beats me. But now that those honorable mentions are out of the way, let's jump in to the top 10. At number 10, I put in one of my team's matchups. Now, to note, I have my team in there 3 times. So I look at this matchup as a key statement matchup for the Seattle Seahawks. You got the Dolphins going into Seattle to take on the Seattle Seahawks. Now, this is supposed to be Tua's first game in Seattle and his first start against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, we know that the Dolphins have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and OBJ. This is going to be a big test for the Seahawks defense because the defense we're all expecting to get a lot better in the next season with Coach Mike McDonald now leading the charge. So, I left this out just at number 10 because this one is a battle of two teams which the Dolphins can't seem to play in inclement weather. So, of course, it's early in the season, so it might be sunny up in Seattle during that time, but we'll wait and see. But that's why I have the Miami Dolphins going against the Seahawks at number 10. At number 9, I put in a potential Super Bowl preview and also a Super Bowl matchup that I have predicted at the early beginning parts of this season. You got the Detroit Lions going on the road to Houston to take on the Texans. Two teams that have risen up from the ashes in the last, just this past season. The Lions breaking a 30-year drought of winning their division and 32-year drought of winning a playoff game and making their NFC Championship game, which we all know what happened next. But Then you got the Texans, which were one of the biggest surprises from last season. I mean, the biggest statement that the Texans made to me last season was when they went against the Cincinnati Bengals and beat them. So, this matchup I'm looking at really closely, and I will be doing a live stream of this, hopefully. But this game is going to be a determiner to decide which two teams are really good. But that's why I have the Lions and Texans at number 9. At number 8, I got a matchup that features a quarterback returning to his former team's house, which is you got the Atlanta Falcons and Kirk Cousins returning to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Now, we don't know who's going to be the starter yet for the Minnesota Vikings, which I'm kind of anticipating it's going to be JJ McCarthy because Sam Darnold is a whole nother no, I don't know. I don't know what the heck he is. But the Vikings, this is going to be a huge statement to beat their former quarterback. This is pretty much going to be a huge statement for either of these teams because these two teams could potentially be in a playoff push. I do have the Vikings as a sleeper team coming into this next season, which of course my Seahawks go against them, which they are not on this list. That one is not on this list. But the Falcons are going to have a lot of expectations on them this season because Kirk Cousins is now with the Atlanta Falcons and left Minnesota to do so. But we'll see what happens when that matchup comes. But that's why I have that matchup at number 8. At number 7, you got a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game. You got the Detroit Lions going to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. The last time these two sides met up was in the NFC Championship, which the Lions gave up the 24-7 lead against them, which was very saddening because I really wanted them to win. Not just because I dislike the Niners, but also because I have massive respect for the Detroit Lions. And I wanted them to get to the Super Bowl this past year. But of course, we all know they didn't. But, anyways, this matchup is going to be key because it comes at the later point of the season, which, if I remember correctly, comes in at week 17 on Monday night. So that'll be probably like a battle for the number 1 seed. Probably. We don't know what's going to happen with the Niners because they have a history of doing bad after being a Super Bowl runner-up. Hey, it's history, folks. It's history. But that's why I have this matchup coming in at number 7. And then number 6. I put this one on here because it's the bad man returning to California. It's one of the week 1 matchups that I have highlighted. You got Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets going on the road to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Now, this matchup is pretty interesting because in total, Aaron Rodgers is 6-7 against the 49ers, which is pretty terrible. But when you diminish the amount of playoff losses, which is 4, that makes it a total of 6-3 that he is against them in the regular season, which is a good stat for Aaron Rodgers. But we all know that the Jets are going to be surprisingly a Super Bowl contender this year for some reason.
Huh? Huh? Huh?
But I'm not buying it. This would probably be a huge statement game if Aaron Rodgers, that bad man, as we all know, can get a win in San Francisco. If he could do that against the defending NFC champion, that would be huge for the Jets to start it off this early. And they won their week 1 match last year against the Bills at home. And that was when Aaron Rodgers only played 4 snaps. Hopefully, Aaron Rodgers can survive a whole game this time. So we'll see what happens, but that's why I have that matchup coming in at number 6. And then number 5, you got a coach versus coach rivalry renewed for the first time in 11 years. You got Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers hosting John Harbaugh and the Baltimore Ravens. Oh my gosh. When I first saw this game on the calendar, I was so hyped about when I saw this. I mean, I was really hyped. because oh my gosh, I was only 10 years old when I saw Jim Harbaugh leading the 49ers. I was only 9 years old. And when I saw these two coaches going at it, when I looked at the highlights between these two later on in my years, this matchup is big. And the Chargers, I do have them as a sleeper team. But the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, that's going to be a whole different beast to go against. And we know that John Harbaugh has had his number, has had Jim's number for the last few times that they've made faced off. But man, first time in 11 years that we've seen this matchup. Jim Harbaugh making his return to the NFL. We'll see what happens, but that's why I have that matchup at number 5. At number 4 is my second Seahawk game that I have on here because it is an old rivalry renewed once again. You got the Green Bay Packers traveling to Seattle in Week 15's Sunday night matchup against my Seattle Seahawks. Oh man, when I saw this game, I was like excited and kind of nervous because I know how good the Green Bay Packers are going to be next year. But this will be the first matchup between the two teams since Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers left. So, this game is going to be another statement game for the Seahawks. If they can beat the Packers, this would be huge. And to mention that the Seahawks have pretty much done really well for the past 2 years, which I'm hoping that stays the same. But going against Green Bay in the rising Hall of Fame quarterback, which they have another Hall of Fame quarterback to add to their ranks. I don't know how they do it, but I don't know. But anyways, this is going to be a good matchup. I am very excited to see this. Hopefully, I can call the game. I'm not sure what my schedule is going to be looking like for my job up at where I'm going to be next. But that's why I have this matchup coming in at number 4. At number 3, I got two running teams, rushing teams that love to rush the ball, and a potential Super Bowl preview, one of the potential Super Bowl previews. You got the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Baltimore Ravens. These two sides have been known for their massive run game that they can just run it down people's throats. The Eagles, they got Jalen Hurts now. You add Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, and also Devontae Smith. And also keep Dallas Goddard and add Devin White. You add C.J. Gardner Johnson back to the team. And you bring in Bryce Huff. This roster is going to be good next year for Philly. They're going to be taking on the Ravens. This matchup is going to be great because it's two rushing quarterbacks, two rushing offenses, and two high-powered defenses going at it. I don't know who I'm going to go with this game yet, but we'll talk about it when it gets to that weekly prediction sort of deal, which I'll be doing next season. But that's why I have this matchup coming in at number 3. At number 2, is the last matchup that I have for my team, the Seahawks. You got the Seattle Seahawks going on the road to Motor City to take on the Detroit Lions in Week 4's Monday night matchup. Man, when I saw this game, I knew it was going to be good. And I'm glad that this game is finally on prime time because the last 3 matchups between these two teams have been really close. They have battled it out. The last time these two teams met up was when Tyler Lockett caught the overtime touchdown in overtime to win it 37-31. The Seahawks in the last 10 matchups are 9-1 against the Lions. So I'm hoping that stays the same again. But this is going to be a really intriguing matchup and maybe a potential playoff matchup preview. Potentially. I don't know. But that's why I have this matchup at number 2. At number 1 on this list, my top matchup going into next season is the offensive rookie of the year last season going against the new goat potentially rising up to that status, Patrick Mahomes. You got the Texans going on the road to Kansas City to take on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, the two-time defending Super Bowl champions. Now, this is the only Kansas City one that I put on here because of this specific matchup. It happens late in the season, which could be battled for the number one seed. But this game is going to be fire because the Chiefs, they've not faced the Texans since CJ Stroud arrived. And we all know how good Stroud was last season. And this matchup is just so good. I love how this looks. The two teams have loaded up on offensive weapons. The Chiefs now have McCall Hard, correction, um, Marquise Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy to add on with Rasheed Rice. We're still waiting to hear what happens on him. And also along with Travis Kelsey, Isaiah Pachenko, and Jared Wiley, which I think is going to actually be one of those sleeper picks for the Kansas City Chiefs this year. And then they're going to be taking on the Texans, which they loaded up in the offseason. They're more all in than the Dallas Cowboys are as far as anyone else is concerned. But anyway, sorry. I try not to troll the Cowboys, but it's hard not to. Sorry, not sorry. But anyways, this matchup is going to be good because the Texans now have Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Joe Mixon, Dalton Schultz, and Cade Stover, and also a defense that now has Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson Jr., and also along with Derek Stingley Jr. This matchup is going to be epic, and I'm very excited to see what happens between these two teams. But that's why I have this matchup at number one on my list. To recap the list, I have the Texans going against the Chiefs at number one. I got the Seahawks going against the Lions at number two. Eagles versus Ravens at number three. Packers versus Seahawks at number four. Ravens versus Chargers at number five, the Battle of the Harbaugh Bowl. And the Jets going on the road to take on the Niners at six. The NFC Championship rematch at number seven. The Falcons going against the Vikings at number eight. The Lions going against the Texans at number nine. And the Dolphins going to take on the Seahawks at number 10. Let me know in the comments what matchup you guys think is really hyped up about this season. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Was there a matchup that I left out? But if you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you all in the next one. Ciao for now.